with us Alev, and Alev will talk about her career transition, and all her lovely experiences that she encountered while founding her Female Tech Leaders, a nonprofit organization about which she will talk, I guess, during the show. So if you can move to the next slide, Swithi, please. So Alev founded the Female Tech Leaders in 2016, a nonprofit organization which is dedicated to empowering more women in STEM and leadership roles. And currently, she works as a product manager at Planet. Planet is a space tech company building Earth observation satellites, capturing the entire landmass of the Earth every day and making the data available via platform. She is responsible for the satellite tasking product. So I welcome you, Alev. So thank you so much for joining this thing, for agreeing to be a guest on this show. And yeah, I'm looking forward to actually knowing you, knowing your stories and sharing everything with the community.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here too. So thank you for inviting me.
You're most welcome. So would you like to tell us, introduce yourself? I know I did it, but would you like to also do it from your side, especially how you think that other people may describe you, and especially your friends or families and colleagues, because I guess that portrays a very interesting perspective, and it shows a different side of our personality.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's see. So the way you introduced me right now sounded so nice and professional and put together. But probably if I were to think about how my friends or family would describe me, it would sound maybe a little bit less professional and put together. So I guess my family would say that I'm quite talkative and a little bit annoying. My sister would say I'm a little weird. My friends would say I'm very curious and very extroverted and outgoing. But my family would say that I'm very introverted and just in my room and reading books growing up. So I guess it's more of a more chaotic personality, I would say. But overall, yeah, just excited about learning new things, excited about finding things out. Quite the science nerd, book nerd as well, and overall, curious, I think would be the one word that people would agree on. So curious personality.
That's amazing. I can totally relate to it, because the little that I know you, I feel that the way you described it, it's perfect, because not the family side, but the way you feel that your friends describe you, I think it's very appropriate. It's very perfect. It fits the definition.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, that's, different people think I'm introverted and different people think I'm extrovert. I think that's the most interesting thing, that maybe everyone can relate to a little bit as well. Your family sees a different side of you, and maybe sees a little bit more the insecure side of you as well, and maybe other people see the other side. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, how were you introduced to tech? I heard a little bird told me that you migrated from a non-tech career to tech, and how did that happen, or what brought you here? So would you like to share it with the community?
Yeah, absolutely. I was not at all very technical growing up. I was more into arts and reading and literature, and my grades in school were also always actually really good in terms of German class, English class, French, languages, arts were really good, and everything that was more mathematical, like math, physics, was always really, really bad. So I did not think growing up that I would end up studying computer science, but that's why I didn't. I actually graduated from high school and went into film production and documentary filmmaking. And I studied that in the US, in Los Angeles, and I worked there for a little bit as well. And I spent a total of 4 years in the US, just studying, working in the art field, and trying to become a documentary filmmaker and cinematographer. And it was really fun. But I also noticed that it was not actually getting that impact that I wanted to have. It was nice and creative, but it was not as impactful, because I think the reason why I wanted to get into documentaries was because I wanted to have some societal impact, or be able to tell stories and touch the masses. But not everyone that goes into filmmaking actually gets as big as every major filmmaker you know, and actually impacts masses, right? So it felt a little bit like, okay, independent movies here and struggling artists there. Okay, do enough people actually see the movies I'm making? Am I having this societal impact? Am I helping to, move masses? And the answer was not really. It's kind of more sales than actually having impact, because I'm trying to get people to produce the films that I want to make, to tell stories of, maybe women who are not treated equally, or maybe immigrants, because immigration was always a topic in my life, because my parents came from Turkey. So this societal impact was not actually made. And then because I was living in California, I also had a lot of friends who worked in tech. And through these friends, through spending also some time, a couple of months in San Francisco, I got in touch with a couple of people who also learned how to code without actually being scientists and without actually having a technical or mathematical background. And then so I started taking some coding classes, and then realized, okay, I could actually have a big impact by doing this, by actually having using technology to build products that touch lives, and maybe have a more wider range of people that I can reach by doing it. And that's when I went back to university and started studying computer science. And I had no idea what I was doing for the most part, I would say, but glad I did.
That's such an inspiring story. Like, really, it's so inspiring. I guess a lot of the people, a lot of our community, the members, they will find the necessary inspiration from this. And even if you are a beginner in tech, it's never too late to, bump up your game and then get going and flourish.
Yeah, if anything, it shows you really that, I mean, that's why I became also such an ambassador in this topic, is because it showed me, oh, wow, okay, I did not have to have this particular math affinity growing up, or this dream to always be a coder growing up. I could also be someone that kind of joins a little bit late to the party, and I could still succeed. So yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
Yeah. And how was basically your, I know that you did both your bachelor's and master's in computer science afterwards. So how was that journey? I mean, what were some of the aha moments, and what were some of the not so aha moments, and something that you wished, did you ever have some point in your career where you felt like, okay, probably going back to filmmaking would have been better, or remaining there would have been better than, why am I doing this? Why am I coding or spending hours debugging?
Yeah, I was thinking that a lot, because I was struggling a lot. I mean, studying computer science is very little coding and a lot of math and a lot of logic and a lot of analysis and linear algebra. And I think also studying in Germany is a little bit unique, because, as you know as well, Ashmi, the professors aren't really per se teaching the way teaching in the common sense, but rather they read out a script, and then you don't get tested until 6 months later. There is one exam, and if you pass it, then you're on to the next class. If you don't pass it, you have to repeat it. So nobody's teaching you, and you have everything depends on this one exam for each class, right? So it was a struggle. I spent a lot of time on YouTube learning things from YouTubers, actually, rather than from class. I met up with a lot of people, and that's also how I built my own community of other women as well, because I felt a little bit more comfortable just getting together with other women and sharing what I don't know and teaching each other. I don't know, we kind of somehow attracted each other. So I had a group of girl classmates that I was studying with, that we kind of helped each other out. And by talking to them, my first aha moment, since you say aha moment there, was actually that, oh, I'm not the only one that feels like I have no idea what's going on. Other people feel it too. And if we talk about it, it feels a little bit less bad because we can share it, right? So I often felt, maybe even especially with male colleagues at the time, because at the time when I was studying, male students were a little bit more, since they were little kids, into computers. And the women, a lot of women that I met in my case were also, they found out randomly about computer science and decided to give it a shot. They were not passionate about it since they were children. So that was my first aha moment, that talked to a lot of women, and we all sometimes feel imposter syndrome. We don't know what's going on always, and we share about it. And it's okay to not know everything and to talk about it. And then the second aha moment was that the guys who seem like they know everything as well, like the men, they also don't know everything. And they maybe, when you talk to them, they also share it with you. Hey, actually, I had that same problem. How did you solve it? And then by doing so, my third aha moment was that especially, or maybe it was only in my case, but computer science as a university faculty was not competitive at all, but it was very, very supportive of each other because we were all struggling. So a lot of people were helping each other. There were a lot of Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups of people coming together. And that was also nice because the film industry is very competitive, and computer science was not competitive at all. It was more, okay, we all don't know what's going on. Let's figure this out. Let's help each other.
Okay, that's really nice. I'm just curious, since you mentioned that the male students and the female students, they had different perspectives and different ways of looking at things. So how was it, especially during your bachelor's? Because master's, I do have some idea like how the demographics or in terms of gender looks like, but how was it, like how many, what proportion of the class constituted of females? Do you remember during your bachelor's?
So we were definitely not many. So I remember when I started my bachelor's, this was 2013. So it's a super long time ago. No, 2014, somewhere around that time. When I had my orientation, we were a very, very small group of women. It was a small room anyway, because the starting class was relatively small. But we were probably in that room, like maybe 20 women max from out of maybe 200-300 people. So it was a relatively small group, but I'm just like making huge approximations here. But one thing that was interesting as well is, so during my bachelor's degree, you saw people, just the number of people in general just decline as you're going through the semesters. And there were a couple of filter classes as well that a lot of people, after taking those, you just kind of leave because they are so hard to pass. Because also failing classes was very normal, and you just repeat until you don't fail anymore. And yeah, especially after these filter classes, I saw the number also really decline. And then, yeah, my group of friends that I met, then it turned out to be just people from all kinds of semesters, so not just my own class. But I would say, I mean, roughly approximated not more than 10 to 15% of women, yeah.
Wow, that's actually very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope the numbers change in the future. And that's why I guess you and me and all the other people, we are working so hard to make that change happen very soon. So, I mean, like, did you have a role model in tech? Or any female role models, to be more specific?
Yeah, so I'm a product manager. I did not become an engineer. I just became a product manager from the first job that I had, or first internship that I started. And my role model is actually a female product manager called Deborah Liu. I don't know if people who aren't in product know her, but in short, she is a former product leader from Meta. Who is now the CEO of Ancestry. And she is very communicative online. So she has a lot of blogs that she writes. And she also founded the Women in Product community, which is like thousands of women. So it's a community that helps each other out a lot for finding jobs, for interview tips, for everything. So similar like Women Who Code, actually. And the blogs she writes, they're just so relatable, from imposter syndrome to learning new techniques and to interviewing. She's also has an immigrant background, and becoming a CEO, working her way up after school. She's also an engineer. From her master's degree, she got an engineering degree and went into product. So a lot of things that she talks about are things I care about as well, because they resonate with me. So she's actually one of my biggest role models. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I mean, since you mentioned product, so how was this transition from tech to product? Because you studied computer science, and then how did you move to product directly? Because you also mentioned that, right?
Yeah. So it was actually really interesting. It became relatively clear in my degree when I was getting it that I was not the best programmer, and I did not enjoy programming as much. So if I had enjoyed it, I could have become better at it. But because I didn't enjoy it, I didn't continue to become as good at it. And I think it's also important to know and to speak about it, that you can be a computer scientist who's not a programmer. And there are also jobs that revolve around computer science that you can take on that aren't engineering or programming. And I learned that as well by kind of observing a little bit, okay, what am I good at? And what I ended up being actually really good at is zooming a little bit out and understanding how systems talk to each other. So when it was about systems design work or about a little bit more discovery work, I ended up being relatively good at it. And the roles I would naturally take in group projects also were more about, because my group members, they saw how slow I was. So they were like, okay, we got this. Can you please figure out all the things that we need to do? Can you figure out when we need to talk to the professor, when we need to submit this, that? So I ended up taking on those roles, right? And thinking through the bigger picture, okay, how do the systems look that we want to build? And so it was kind of two roads I could take, right? I could go maybe into an architecture role, or I could go into a product role. And while I was studying, I received a recruiter message for a software engineering internship at Microsoft, which was awesome that they reached out, right? And I wanted to be really transparent with the recruiter, because I knew if I interview now for a software engineering role at Microsoft, I'm not going to get it. So I just told them, hey, I would love to be an intern at Microsoft, but I could either do some architecture related role, or I could do something more product related, or something that's more related to strategy, but where I have to also employ my technical knowledge. And they immediately said, okay, you know what, interview for this product internship and see if you like it. Maybe that's a potential career for you. And I interviewed, and the interviews felt like, for the first time, I realized, okay, this is where I'm really good at, because the interviews didn't feel like interviews. They felt like hanging out with friends and talking and ideating about the things I already talk with my friends about. So the topics, the brainstorming questions, the asking about, okay, what if we wanted to build a product that solves this problem, that problem? So having this, again, this like curiosity mindset of exploring options and product and innovation strategies were topics I normally like to talk about as well. And that's what the interviews were like as well. And then when I joined the internship, that was also the role. And so I found myself in that discipline. Yeah.
That's so nice. Seriously, I mean, really inspiring. And like, just curious, I mean, if you just said that you were bad in coding and still you made it to Microsoft, which is a bang, and I'm pretty sure that each of their internships or, any position, in order to get there, you need to crack lead code. How did that happen?
I also, for Microsoft, I didn't have a coding interview. So
Okay.
I didn't do any lead code questions, but I studied until the last breath, the systems design, cracking the systems design. What's it called? There is this GitHub page, I think, where it's about, here's how to practice systems design question. So I did that. So I could, any kind of hypothetical question you could give me about any system, from Uber to WhatsApp, like I could try and like write it down for you, but I did not do any coding, and I was just hoping that they don't ask me any coding questions. And yeah, it turned out luckily that they didn't. Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, I remember borrowing the cracking the coding interview from you at some point. Didn't make too much progress though, but yeah, someday probably.
Yeah, but I don't think I ever, went more than page number 3 in that book, because I opened it and I was like, no, I can't.
Oh yeah, it is a bit overwhelming. It is. I am also terrified of coding interviews. I'm fine like working on projects and working on like coding projects. But if I know that there's someone observing me while I'm writing code, even if I know the code by heart,
Yeah.
I will miserably fail, and that's something I need to also work on.
Yeah. One thing I can say though is, and again, it's very easy to say it now that I'm sitting here and I'm not really in an interview, but what resonated with folks, I think, when I was interviewing, because I also once had an internship interview at Google, and there they asked me a coding question. And it actually worked out relatively well. And then in the final stage, I didn't get in, but the technical interview went well. And I really noticed that they appreciate that you just talk to them, even if you're not really solving the problem right. I think when you talk to them and you can at least articulate what you're thinking, and even if you're in like a difficult spot where you don't know how to progress and you're in front of a challenge and you're not getting it, I think communicating about it is what's appreciated, and it's probably also really good. It makes a really good impression on them that you can speak about your thoughts.
Yeah. So now, like, what are you doing at Planet? Because I was very curious from your bio that, so what exactly is your role in Planet about?
Yeah, so I was actually, okay, I had 2 roles so far in Planet. Both were in product management, but managing 2 completely different products. In short, Planet, like you also just said, is a satellite and Earth data platform company. So they build their own satellites and they shoot the satellites up to space. And the satellites take imagery and capture data about everything on the planet on a daily basis. And then customers can also go to our platform and task satellites for a particular day, for a particular spot, if they want to get more high resolution imagery or if they want to get more data. And now I'm a product manager for this platform, that the part of the platform where the customers can go and task a satellite. So say I care about what Berlin, I care about imagery over Berlin on September 28th at 6 p.m. Then we go and we capture information on September 28th, 6 p.m. over Berlin, and you can download that data and you can put it into analysis. Customers range from agriculture to governments to climate research institutions. We have a lot of people who care about, methane, CO2 emissions. So there's a lot of data that you can actually capture about the planet Earth with satellites, not just photos, but also data about anything on the electromagnetic spectrum, which is really anything from UV to methane to everything. And then so my role before this tasking system, where you could actually say, okay, go to Berlin, September 28. Before that portion, I was actually a data product manager. And here comes the relevance to data science, because I was a product manager for the internal data platform engineering team. Because we were building our data team from scratch. It was still relatively early. And I supported the data engineering team in building our first data warehouse. And for that, we need a product manager, because I had to go and find out from everyone else at the company. So needless to say, my customers were then internal customers and my colleagues were my customers. I had to go and find out, what do you care about our data for business intelligence? What do you need to know? What do you need to measure to make your decisions better? And then feed that information to my team so we can build the data platform for them.
Super interesting. So now we have talked a bit about your journey in tech and your experiences in tech and as in product, and also the transition. So now coming back to one of the most important things, I guess, in your life, female tech leaders. So I guess it's very dear to your heart, because it is also very close to my heart. I have been associated with it for the last few years, and I really appreciate it. So would you like to talk about, like, because I guess most of the people here are not really aware of it, and so would you like to introduce female tech leaders, and also would you like to talk about, I guess you already hinted it, but what made you found such a platform or such an organization? How did it, how did it give birth to female tech leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I have to say, you're underselling because you're not only associated with female tech leaders, but you were one of the very first team members that
Yes.
actually helped grow the entire organization. So just for the record, Ashmi was, I think, like one of the first 5 or 6 probably team members, and she led the hackathons team for a super long time. So so much for that. But about female tech leaders, I mean, I founded it while I was still a student, I think getting my bachelor's degree. And yeah, exactly. What I said before, when I was studying, I noticed, okay, there's not a lot of girls, but I kind of feel really comfortable when I get to talk to my, female friends and classmates about problems that we're solving, homework, study sessions. So let me see if I can find more and bring them together. And then we found each other basically, and started off with what first started as a small Facebook group, and then just grew over and over by people adding more people. And then eventually we started to have our first couple of meetups. And they started already really big because there were not a lot of organizations, at least in Munich at the time, to bring together women in tech. And the first meetup, I think, that we organized was over 250 people. So it was really huge considering how few women I actually knew in computer science in my university. So immediately we realized that, okay, there is a big need, there's a big demand there. People asked to volunteer. And then the team grew, the outreach grew. And today we are probably about 30 people, 30 volunteers. So volunteers, sometimes it's a little bit more active phases, sometimes more passive phases, but overall 30 people who contribute to the cause. And we are not only doing meetups, but we're also doing workshops. So in terms of public speaking workshops or interviewing workshops, we do programming courses as well. So we have a team that teaches people how to code. You come for a weekend and you leave having built your first app or having built your first website or your own machine learning algorithm at some point as well. So we're doing a bunch of different kinds of ideas and topics around teaching people how to code. We have the school class visits where we go to the younger generations. We have, the speaker nights and panel discussions, kind of like today, where we invite people and talk to them about their careers and their past. So it's really grown into an organization that tries to become this forum for women to get together, to, if they want to learn skills, to network with each other. And also, as of late, we want to support female founders. Also, and especially technical founders, because they exist too. And it would be great to get them connected to VCs, get them connected to potential co-founders or potential employees in the future. So all around, we are trying to make the world of tech for women more inclusive and more connected.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I can totally agree with what Alev just said. Female tech leaders has grown so much in the last 5-6 years, and it feels so good to have something like this group of females, or this group of I would say friends, because they are not just teammates or colleagues to me, but they are more like my friends. And whenever I have some sort of problem or something, and whenever not just me, but it's like anyone in the group has some sort of problem, I always know that I have the support of female tech leaders with me. And it has not only given me my network in Germany or Munich, but it has given me a lot more than that. It has given me some of my closest friends. It has given me, it has taught me so much, and I can go on and on, but it's not about me today, so let's come back and focus on you again. So like, how did you manage to, balance female tech leaders, work, studies, everything together, and how did it all work out? Like, yeah.
I mean, I think the most honest answer is I didn't manage. Studying and also volunteering at the same time and working was not the best choice, and it did not work always really well. So whenever I would focus on one thing, another thing would get a little bit of less focus. So it was actually just kind of a little bit stressful and a little bit balancing act. And it was often a conscious decision to say, okay, this semester, I really want to focus full time on female tech leaders. And then I will maybe take another semester of university and study a little bit longer than I planned. And then attach basically that time in to the future. So it was a conscious choice that you cannot, at least I could not do all of them at the same time. So yeah, I can't say it was like managed really well. It was a little bit chaotic a lot of times, but yeah, life is always in phases, right? Like right now I'm in a phase where I'm really prioritizing becoming really good at work and at my job. And there'll come a time again where I really prioritize pushing forward female tech leaders. And I think it's always a choice what you want to focus on more.
That's absolutely true, but from the outside, we never noticed any difference that you are not balancing any of them not too well or something. We always felt like you were balancing it all great, and you were there for us whenever we needed you, and you were also doing great in school. So yeah, we didn't realize that.
I'm glad.
Yeah. So
also in hindsight, right? Like you always look back and you're like, wait, how did I do that? Why did I do that? And how did I do that? It's maybe in hindsight, I'm a little bit more critical about how that whole phase was managed. But yeah, thanks for the nice words.
Yeah, women who code, female tech leaders, they all have the same visions and same mission to empower more women in STEM and leadership roles. And we are like really, really happy to have you here. So what advice do you have for the women here who would like to get more involved in tech?
Okay. It's hard to say what advice, because it's kind of more advice also to myself. I don't know if I have all of the answers, but at least from my learning, I think one thing I would tell also my past self, or for anyone who wants to get into tech, is don't necessarily listen to your doubtful voice. If you hear it in your head, try to not listen to it or pay much attention to it, because it's not always right. I think everyone feels doubt and feels maybe like not like they're the strongest or the best at a particular discipline. Like in my case, studying computer science and not being very great at math. But I think everyone thinks that. Everyone has these doubts, and it's about how much power you give it and how good you are at just ignoring it and pushing through anyway. So yeah, that would be my advice. Don't listen to the doubtful voices in your head. Voice, or maybe voices. Some have more voices.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is always pulling us down, and
we just have to live with it and ignore it. Quiet it down.
And another question that I had was, who do you think are the major stakeholders in helping us bridge the gender gap in STEM fields across the world?
That's a good one. Who do I think are the major stakeholders in helping us bridging the gap? Okay, there's many, I think. On the one hand, of course, it's us, the volunteers that try to spend their free time with initiatives like this, drawing awareness. There's people that work in big companies that are, I think, people in minority groups or underrepresented groups that work in powerful companies also have the chance to make an impact, because you bring a little bit of a perspective as well that maybe not everyone that's in a majority group can see. One example that my friend gave me the other day is she saw this trainee program at a really big company where you can after school join, and you're part of this cohort of trainees that were hand selected, of like really, really great trainees that we're going to support you to really become big in this technical company. And she came from a minority background. She was a child of immigrants, and she found out that she was kind of out of this cohort of like 20 people, she was the only one with an immigrant background. And when she then looked into the application criteria of how you could get into this program, she found out that one of the major criteria to get in was to have had an experience abroad. And she realized that, okay, there's maybe some unconscious bias in this application program, because if you're an immigrant, or if you're coming maybe from a Middle Eastern family and you're a child of immigrants and you're a woman, chances are maybe you're not allowed to go abroad for half a year and study somewhere else. Or maybe your parents cannot afford it if you're a woman or a man, but you're coming maybe from an immigrant family. Maybe your family cannot afford to send you abroad. And in a lot of German families, it's actually quite normal that you go abroad for a few months or years in your university, right? So she was quite surprised that the majority of the cohort in that training program were Germans, and she was the only one that had an immigrant background. But if that's the application criteria, it's going to filter out this whole group of other people that would have been really competent, but they're not going to get in. So all this long story to say, I think the people who are in minorities and work at these big, powerful companies have the ability to bring in this new perspective and change a little bit the rules to make it also more inclusive. And it's not even that maybe the German people who made these rules in that company were trying to exclude anyone. They just didn't know. So we need all of us to be in there as well, so we can be this helping voice that says, oh, by the way, I know something as well. Probably this is going to exclude person X, Y, and Z, so you might want to change that.
This is amazing, because this is also very relatable, because I don't know if we are talking about the same company, but I'm also aware of such companies who have such criteria and also very high level of German requirement, which kind of filters out a lot of potential candidates, which is a problem in Germany. And we as immigrants face a lot here, because if your German is not C1 or like perfectly perfect, you are out of the out of the system basically, and you have basically your chance reduces drastically to make it to a big company. That's unfair. I totally get it, and I would definitely support that we should be more inclusive, so that not just women, but it will be fair to all the minorities and all the deserving candidates, even from the minorities, communities. So yeah, and before we move to our last segment, I have one last question for you. So do you have like one particular challenge that you would like to mention that you faced during your entire journey? Could be during this female tech leaders founding of female tech leaders, also during your transition to tech, like one challenge you felt that, okay, this was the biggest challenge that I had, and how did you overcome it?
Ooh. So my biggest challenge, I think it has to be managing time. I think maybe I'm also just generally not the best person at managing time. I think it could also just be my personal shortcoming, but I think, yeah, the biggest challenge was really managing time between studies and working and volunteering and starting up this organization, because it was just everything I touched felt like it came too short. You know, I did not have enough capacity to do any of it. So yeah. That was one major challenge, I think.
That's amazing. So now we are done with the first round. We have a quick rapid fire round for you, where you just have to select one of the options, one of the many options, and Siti has already started sharing the screen. So Yeah, so we can begin. So yeah, Mac, Linux, or Windows? Which
Mac.
one? Next, Vim, VS Code, or PyCharm?
Oh, PyCharm.
Okay, next. Command line person or a GUI person?
Command line.
Amazing. You say you don't like to code, but your answers don't say that.
I know.
Okay, next one. Android or an iPhone user?
iPhone, always.
Okay, next one. Data science or web dev?
Of course, data science. Now that I'm here, I have to say no, but actually data science.
Okay, next one. Manager or a developer?
Manager.
I guessed it as well. Like whenever I'm showing you the options, I'm having a possible guess. You know, my model is doing prediction inside that what could be the result of, but then yeah. So next one should be please. Backend or front end? I know you're not a web developer, but still.
Backend.
Next one. So coding or partying? I think I know the answer, but still.
Partying.
Okay, next one. So work from office or remote work?
Remote. All the way.
Yeah, totally agree. Next. Morning person or night owl?
Can you guess?
Are you a morning person? I forgot.
Yeah, morning person.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see your mails and all the messages being answered in the morning. So I guess from there. So I think now is the last one, if I'm not mistaken. So tea or coffee?
Coffee. I hate tea.
Oh no. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much, Alev. With this, we have come to the end of our sessions, and I guess we had some questions, or if you have some questions for us, we would be happy to answer them. And yeah, and I guess I will also hand it over to Siddhi, who will do the handle the Q&A part.
Yeah, it was, hi Alev again. It was lovely listening to your conversation with Ashmi, and as I guess there were a lot of takeaways, especially when you're talking about women in tech. Like there was just so much takeaway from me, especially because I'm just coming out into the corporate world and in the tech world. So it was really awesome listening to you, and because I know that Ashmi, and Ashmi from before, from your organization, it felt like a very friendly conversation. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, I guess I can start taking up the Q&A questions. So we do have quite a few questions from you, from our audience. So the first one is from Lauren. She says, hi, Alev, I'm a master's student studying computer science with a concentration in data science. Is there anything you wish you would have known before starting your master's program? I'm unsure if I want to move to a PM or an engineering role postgrad. Any advice?
Okay, so what did I wish I had known before starting my master's program? I think if I'm really transparent, there were times in my master's program where I thought, should I have even done a master's program? Because I knew relatively early that I was not going to go into an engineering role. And I wasn't, sure if I even should have done it or what benefit is going to give me. In hindsight, it was good that I did it, because in Germany, at least, it helped me be differentiated, because everyone is going to have a bachelor, because university is free in Germany. Everyone has at least a bachelor. So to differentiate yourself, you get a master. And even then, most people have a master's degree. It did not ultimately actually have too much application in my work, except for the fact that maybe it has some implicit application, because I understand certain concepts better as a product manager. And I can say, as a product manager, if you have an engineering degree or a technical background, if that's a role that interests you, it gives you a lot of advantage, because on the one hand, your engineering team knows that you understand what they're going through and that you can empathize with them. They have trust in you. You're not just going to go and say, oh, build this in a week, because you know what it takes to build it. And I think it brings a huge advantage. So I don't know if this is helpful or answering your question, but if you're unsure if you want to move to a PM or an engineering role post-grad, I would say, see where your curiosity wanders. Maybe that sounds a little bit too like, I don't know. I don't want to sound spiritual or anything, but if you have free time or you're on vacation and you kind of browse through your phone or you read articles, or see where your mind wanders, what do you just genuinely find interesting in your free time? And if it's more, you know, when you're reading technical articles, more product-based or strategy-based, or more engineering-based, maybe you can use that as a guidance, because, yeah, I never read hacker news, but I would read, for example, I don't know, Wall Street and all of the new innovations that would come out. And so, I don't know, maybe a small, yeah, maybe very personal for me, a very subjective, but yeah, I would see where you're, what draws you.
All right. Thank you, Alev, for answering that question. So on to our next question. It's about, can you talk about the importance of luck and creating your own luck when it comes to job searching or career transition?
Importance of luck and creating your own luck. Yes, I think I believe in creating your own luck a lot. I told you in the beginning that my family tells me that I'm a little bit annoying. I think you have to be a little bit annoying also when you're looking for a job. And I think you have to be a little bit audacious and not self-reject, because I sometimes in my head almost self-reject and then I catch myself. And one thing I did very heavy when I was looking for a job was networking. Try to network, try to write people, cold write people, emails or on LinkedIn if you want to hear about their experience at a job. I think if you're interested in the company, you know, you can always write people who work there and see if they can tell you what it's like to work there. And then maybe they can recommend you if you hit it off and you have a good conversation. Oftentimes people are very willing to recommend you. So that's how I associate actually creating your own luck. And then luck comes also again when you are networking a lot, because then people will think of you when they have a job opening or when they associate something with you. So I think first you create your own luck and then luck follows. I don't know if that made sense. Probably not, but you catch my drift.
It was great advice, and it definitely did make sense. So thanks again for answering that question. And our next question is, can you talk about the hard skills you had before your first tech job?
Yeah. So my first tech job, I guess my first internship in tech, what were my hard skills? I think I had probably, as hard skills go, the closest hard skills I had were what I knew from my projects in university. So systems design, like I said, I knew that from my projects. I knew the limited amount of coding that I didn't use in my tech job from the project as well. I think, yeah. I think though, what's also really important to know is that when you're starting your very first job, it should not be expected of you to have a lot of these skills. The company should hopefully also sponsor you to learn those skills. So I can say, walking out of the internship, I had a lot more hard skills than I had walking in. Like I walked out with the ability to, distinctly write specs, to write concisely, to write clearly. I think the biggest takeaway I had from my first internship was actually writing skills. For hard skills, because writing is so important and written communication is super important in product management. Also technical specs I had to write as well. So I got really good at that as well. A little negotiation, but that's more of a soft skill.
Sure. Again, that was a really insightful question. Answer. All right. Next question is, what are good system design resources to learn from?
Okay, so first thing is there is this guy on YouTube called Gaudev. go and subscribe to his channel and watch all of his videos. He goes case by case and does every system design problem you could expect one by one. I think it's called Gaurav Sen. I'm going to look it up. And there is also this one system design page that I'm going to Google it now. There is this one particular system design primer, I think is what it's called. Yeah, I'm going to look it up. I can't find it now, but I'm going to look it up and send it maybe to Ashmi, and Ashmi, you can maybe send it with the participants, because it has like a whole, like you could do a whole like question and answer. You can test yourself. It has the best. Yeah, that's the one. The YouTube channel, that's the one. Watch all of his videos. You will walk out of that knowing everything. And then you can practice this with this system design. Oh, I found it. It's here. Okay. It's called Don Martin System Design Primer. And if you Google Don Martin System Design Primer, you will hopefully find his page as well. So yeah, those are the two only sources that I use. They taught me everything. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing those resources. And on to our next question, which is, did you need to know any GIS or Python before starting at Planet?
No, I did not. So that was really cool as well, that the product role I started in and also the product role I'm doing now, it did not have any GIS or coding experience that it required. I did have did I have a system design route? I had one conversation that was a little bit more technical in one of my interviews, but a lot of my interviews were heavily on product skills and product experience. So I had like 7 or 8 rounds of interviews. They were all product and strategic thinking and communication skills related. So for my product role, not.
All right. Again, thank you for answering that question. And this would be our last question, which is, any tips of conquering fears about learning new things and the tech industry?
Wow, that's hard. Conquering fears of learning new. I think my biggest thing that I notice on myself, and maybe you too, is that when I'm afraid of something, like it's so vast, I'm scared to start. And I think that's the worst thing, just to do the first step. I think breaking things down into the smallest components allows you to make every step so bite-sized that it's only just one small step. This is a very vague way to answer it, but for example, you're learning a whole new concept. You can start with just like the first word definition. And then you can start with, okay, you know what, today I'm only going to read 1 page. And then, it's slowly you will have a more knowledge that then suddenly grows, and you'll realize, okay, you did so many bite-sized steps that it didn't feel like this huge mountain anymore. So I would say try to compartmentalize it into tiny bits.
All right. Thank you again for answering that question. And I believe we're also in time. I would like to thank Alev for taking our time and participating in this event and just giving really insightful, talking about her experience, which were really insightful to all of us. And I would also like to thank Ashmi for taking out her time and interviewing Alev. And lastly, I would like to thank our audiences for taking out the time and participating in this event. And I hope you all enjoyed. So yeah, I guess we can end our event here. Bye, guys.
So thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.